Looks like it worked. Sorry everyone if you just got a notification about a YouTube live video and it went away. We're just getting this sorted out. Colin here from Pre-Search with Max Borders.
Social Evolution. On our way to Burning Man.
That's right, we're in the back of an RV that is being driven by Thomas from Pre-Search. Thanks Thomas. It's Thomas's birthday and it's gonna be an awesome birthday. So we're just here and having a conversation about the social singularity.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of writing a book about it, and it's nothing like writing a book to give your ideas away early live on YouTube. But but it's essentially ideas that I've borrowed and allowed to, as Matt Ridley says, have sex.
Yep.
And you know, everyone's familiar with the sort of Moore's law effects that have caused people like Ray Kurzweil and others to postulate a point beyond which we'll have superintelligence due to the advance of AI and processing power and so on. That's pretty well known now. Everybody's freaking out about, you know, the robots taking our jobs and becoming smarter and better than we are. Perhaps they will. But quietly, in parallel, at least quietly for most people, because it doesn't get a lot of, in this community perhaps not, but I think that there's another singularity that's approaching, and I'd call it the social singularity.
Yep.
The social singularity is a term that people have started to bandy about a bit and has different definitions. We can talk about those different definitions. I think they're all good and all meaningful from the standpoint of how you define it.
Yep.
Some think of it as a new form of collective intelligence that emerges once you reach a certain critical mass of peer networking our minds. Mm-hmm. Some of it, you know, see it as just a point at which the mediating structures that we're used to suddenly become obviated or made obsolete by the technologies that we're talking about and that you guys are working on.
Yeah.
I think both of these are credible ways to look at what I'm calling the social singularity. But let's just for a moment think about this idea that we're going to have a point of no return that's going to be catalyzed by something along the lines of that was a trail blazed by Satoshi Nakamoto, and that is the blockchain and cryptocurrencies. That is the most familiar example, at least right now. How do you think we get to a point of rapid adoption where at least money flips away from fiat? That would be at least a nail in the coffin or a precipitating event for the social singularity in my mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's the most powerful mental structure and legacy mental structure. There's been incredible technological innovation as far as sharing of content, as far as networking and connectivity.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point anybody is arguing for, no, I need to go back to my phone book. No, I need to go back to my quill and ink. You know, people have embraced wholeheartedly connecting technology in the form of, you know, content sharing and production, you know, video, all those different aspects. But the thing that we're still clinging to that is totally legacy is fiat currency, paper dollars, just this older style of centralized money.
Yeah.
And so we're going out to Camp Decentral at Burning Man, which is really exciting. A lot of people that are kind of working towards that social singularity on the money side.
Right.
As you said, so you know, if this is kind of one of the last, you know, real kind of barriers to potentially a really bright future where we're all more collaborative and where value is being realized and exchanged a lot more readily, and where you know, kind of the radical inclusion theme of Burning Man is actually it's actually real.
Yeah, and realized both in certainly via the cloud, but it extends to all of humanity as much as humanity is possible.
That's right.
Certainly to enough human beings that we reach that that catalyst moment, that tipping point, whatever you want to call it. Critical mass.
Yeah.
So on the question of critical mass, I mean, this is really...
how do we get there?
This is a head scratcher. How do we get there? Because one of the things that we've seen is the co-evolution of technology and culture.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we see... we talk about people who, once they get it in their hands and they use it, they get that aha moment by virtue of using it, by virtue of seeing the benefits of it.
That's right.
And there's also a cultural dynamic involved. Culture tends to follow the incentives sometimes, but sometimes it can work the other way. We can create a culture. We can go to Burning Man and evangelize about it, and then get people to try it. So there's both of these sort of working in co-evolutionary avenues. So what do you think? Talk about mass adoption. That mental schema that people are attached to for fiat currency, that this is stable, it's backed by what? The people with the guns in the jails, you know. It's something special about it. I can touch it, you know, I can put it under my mattress or whatever. Which virtually no one does anymore.
Totally.
What is it gonna be to flip that switch, to change that schema? To crypto?
So I think there are a few things, and something that is just so interesting. And this is kind of our, role as evangelists, and I think the Burning Man community, the decentralist community, in particular, is what we're trying to do with this crypto bus, is just make it real for people to help them overcome that structure. And the easiest way that I've found is when people actually all of a sudden, when they have crypto, and there's some just tactical stuff that you got to get through to get to that point. You need to have a wallet. You need to have a basic understanding of how addresses work. You need to kind of understand the difference between a wallet and an exchange, and a coin, and some of these different mechanisms. And there's so many resources online now. It's really, but when they actually have it, so when I've transferred to you, a Bitcoin or an Ether, and when you use it, we'll do that on the next video. And how does it actually get into my wallet, and then wow, I see it there. Now I've got a number, just like you do with an online banking system or a stock trading account, any of these different things that people have faith in, right? So they get that number in their wallet, and that's like the first step. It's like, wow, okay, I've got some. I'm in, right? And then the next step is exchanging that for something that you want. And whether that is paying for something, which there are, so many more avenues to do that than people realize. I mean, we're from Canada, you're Austin, but in Canada there's a service called Bills, BYLLS.com, and it enables you to basically convert Bitcoin to like just about anything. You can actually pay your property taxes through Bills. It's a very powerful service. And there's also another one called coincard.ca, and that one enables you to basically buy gift cards from basically big box stores. But you can change that crypto to something that's a little more tangible and readily accepted. And so as soon as people start doing that and realize that value exchange, all of a sudden things become a lot more real. So I think what we need to do is help people get set up with wallets, help them have that really basic understanding, help them get some kind of a number in their account. Pay them to learn, totally, because it adds value to the ecosystem. It increases the value of your own holdings, and it's just such a neat model. Nothing has existed like this before.
Universal basic knowledge.
It really is. It really is. It's interesting.
That's interesting.
And it kind of dovetails with the other kind of thought thread that we discussed about crypto appreciating. Looked at the price of Bitcoin in Canada this morning, and oh wow, it's up to $56.50. This is amazing. And then looked half an hour later, and it's $57.50. And there's some really smart people saying that Bitcoin could be worth $100,000 or more. And so as the holders of these currencies are just getting the benefit of this appreciation, I mean, I think there's such a huge opportunity and almost an obligation to take some of those gains and start to spread it out to others, right?
Well, there's another thing that we talked about before, which was some of the new wallets and technologies like Shapeshift and Jax.
Yeah.
Jax being a new wallet that allows interchangeability among cryptocurrencies and fiat currencies, as I understand it, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And then Shapeshift, which also just does it right then and there.
Yeah.
Those two strike me as also.
It's gonna go. Okay, here it goes again. There we go. We're back. Sorry, guys.
Lose you again. If so, we hate to miss you, but
yeah. You can hop back on to Pre-Search YouTube and you can check this out. Yeah. So there's kind of the positive way, which is evangelistic.
And incentive-based.
And incentive-based. And I would really like to, like on the Jax side, what is so interesting about that wallet, and there are probably lots of others that do it as well, but Jax is the one that kind of I become familiar with. There's a guy, he's a little bit, low-key. We're getting a very bad connection again, this figures. Named Anthony Diorio. He's one of the original founders of Ethereum, a very business-minded guy, early Bitcoin evangelist up in Canada, and we happened to bump into him and kind of get to participate in a bit of a brainstorming session with him. And he's got a pretty interesting vision for Jax, and he's realizing it. The software works pretty well. But so, as far as breaking down those mental models, one of the biggest challenges is the pricing, because people are still denoting a price in a traditional fiat dollar.
I do it.
It's $50, right?
Yeah.
That's what you think of. It's tough for people to say, oh, it's 0.001 of a Bitcoin, and especially when Bitcoin is changing so rapidly, and a lot of these cryptocurrencies.
Do we start thinking in Satoshis? Do we start thinking in units of Satoshis? Whatever those are.
That's right, or Gui, or it's so that is something where I think fiat still has a really strong pull.
Yeah.
But with Jax, what it enables you to do is to on the fly. So I could send you, and this is all powered by Shapeshift. Eric Voorhees, as you mentioned. Pretty amazing individual. Really thankful that he's done what he's done. But so let's say I want to send you $50. I've got Ethereum. You want Bitcoin. We can actually do that through Jax. And so what it's doing is it's basically kind of harmonizing like the price of the crypto through the exchanges, because obviously there's a bunch of different exchanges, so it's trying to aggregate and harmonize that price. And then it's doing the same thing for all these local currencies. So it's pulling in, and you can set up within your settings, I use Canadian dollars, I use American dollars, I use, the lira or the yen, whatever. And it all happens for that user. And so you could be denoted in US dollars, I could be denoted in Canadian dollars, we could be exchanging through multiple cryptos. And what is really interesting is as they start adding more altcoins, which they've done, they support a good number of them, but it sounds like they're going to end up supporting a ton of them, is that you've got all these different communities that are creating value and have created their own little ecosystem that is going to be tracked, really, the outcomes through their own crypto. They could be operating out in kind of their own little pocket, but if that pocket is discoverable and usable through Jax, then they can start to exchange some of that value. So it's a really interesting opportunity. That's on the positive side.
It's like pulling the single thread from the sweater.
Yeah, totally.
A bit.
Totally.
To get these people.
That's right.
Starting to think in other currencies and therefore other mental models.
That's right.
And hopefully, we talked about the other way it could go is that there be a financial crisis and that people just turn to it out of desperation.
Totally.
That hopefully the system will become anti-fragile and robust enough, and there will be enough mass adoption that transition won't be so painful if it does happen again. And all indicators suggest it could very well happen again, because the same folks are in power. There's not very much has been changed. It's all window dressing. And we could very well see another crisis or series of crises in the future that would make. There's an old story about the dog on the porch. There's a nail under him, and he just howls away and howls away, but he never really gets up off that nail until it becomes just uncomfortable enough.
Yeah.
And that could also be a mechanism for pushing people into cryptocurrencies.
Totally.
I would rather it be through culture change and people seeing the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Lowering the cost of adoption, which people are doing day by day, making it really easy to learn and to get into.
Yeah.
But I am concerned that it could be a crisis that does precipitate this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, when you look at 2008, and when you look at just about any of the, maybe manufactured isn't the right word, but sometimes it feels manufactured. These manufactured crises, where it's about the contraction of the supply of money.
Yeah.
That's really, that's what precipitated the Great Depression. That's what has precipitated just about all the depressions, is contraction in the supply of money. And, it's somewhat artificial, because it's not like, the river has a dam, it's a jam up, and it can't flow through. It's a policy decision was made.
Right.
And, the media exacerbates whatever it is, and it flips everybody to fear. They fear like, there's not going to ever be enough currency again. I'm not going to be able to get my hands on it, so I better hoard it and hold on to it. And then that stops the whole series of transactions and the producer-consumer relationships where we're creating the most value.
Yeah.
And so this could be the first time ever where that happens, but there's actually an alternative, and the barrier to entry, the barrier to usage is so low that people just say, you know what, this works, and it just takes off completely.
Well, this is really the sort of mental schema, or the mental model that you're describing, that's sort of holding up mass adoption, is because people are so comfortable with old fiat currency, and that it's funny. It's almost like the paradox of subjective value.
Right.
Because on the one hand, we know that value is determined by value doesn't exist in the world.
Yep.
It's determined by the valuer.
Yep.
The way people appreciate or fail to appreciate something.
Yep.
But the paradox in that is there are objective facts that if people knew,
right,
they would likely change their preferences.
Right.
So it's not to say that it's entirely just up for grabs.
Right. Right.
Certainly, value is subjective. That is one of the founding principles of good economics.
Right.
But there's sort of an illusion or an ascription of value onto fiat currency,
right,
that is held up simply by virtue of people's ignorance about the way the system works,
right,
and the benefits of adopting cryptocurrencies.
Totally. Yeah, one of the things that really helped me flip my thinking, it's a video that's on YouTube. It's older. It's from the 90s. It's pretty dated, but called Money Masters. And I used to really think about money completely differently. I used to want money, and I realized that I was a slave to the currency, and by default, the whole fractional reserve banking system, central bankers, and then everything that kind of comes off of that system, which is largely parasitic. But after kind of watching this movie, my awareness started to expand, and I realized that, okay, this is not about currency, it's not about money, it is about value. And the earliest currencies, they were super basic, and it was just a way to account for value creation, value usage, and tally sticks were used, and seashells and all these different things. It really almost doesn't matter what it is, as long as there's something there that isn't easily forged, so that you can basically track those debits and the credits. And so really what money actually is a ledger. And so when we talk about blockchain and we talk about cryptocurrency, really what that technology is distributed ledger technology. So it's bing. Ah, okay. It's pretty much that is the perfect thing that we need to start to just again shift the power back to the producers and the consumers and away from those central forces that have all the control and the ability to add ones and zeros to their benefit at the expense of everybody else. And if you look at inflation and everything, I mean,
it's interesting that you have people like Nick Szabo, who was one of the very early innovators on. I mean, certainly his thought, if he's not directly involved in early Bitcoin, he was his BitGold stuff had to have been an influence
for sure.
He's just this amazing polymath, computer scientist on the one hand, and legal scholar on the other. And what he knew was that features of the common law. Common law is not perfect, but it is an emergent form of law that is sort of tempered in thousands and millions of interactions among people to create this emergent law. And what we find over and over again are certain patterns of common law. And it's why any country that has adopted the common law tends to be one of the most successful countries in the world. Despite the imperfections, So he noticed those patterns and brought them to bear as features of cryptocurrency, which is interesting. It's like it's almost like common law and money in one. And that's super badass. That is super badass. Not only that, we're going to start to see what distributed ledger technology can do for people in the developing world. For example, property rights, where property rights are generally insecure and they're not recorded and enforced by predatory bodies and agencies around them. This is at least a way of providing a community record of what's the difference between mine and thine, for farming, for starting a little business, a little sweatshop, whatever it is that poor people are doing. That is super profound. When people say disruption, sometimes they mistakenly just think anything that like fucks your market. But there's actually a really specific way that disruptive innovation was used by Clayton Christensen, which is that you give people in new markets like poor people really simple, cheap ways to use a product in an adjacent to your industry. That's how Netflix started out. Giving poor people a simple alternative to cable.
And now it's antiquated.
Now cable's virtually dead. I mean, I don't use it. But with crypto, I think we're going to see that catch fire in the developing world. We haven't yet, not to the degree that it would be super meaningful. But when we talk about the social singularity, it could very well happen among those. It could very well be set alight among those who need it most in the world, and that's a really cool thing.
It's phenomenal, and it really kind of mirrors the adoption of mobile technology. They leapfrogged the landline world, and now they're almost at an advantage over us because we were supporting these legacies that they don't work as well for our actual needs, and they're costly. And so if you start seeing those economies and those communities adopt things like distributed ledger technology for property rights, that then starts to enable all that next layer of smart contract technology, where now I own a property, I can set up a smart contract that you participate in as the buyer, and it facilitates the payments and all these types of things automatically. Then they've leapfrogged us from that property rights and that legal enforcement scenario, and they could end up in a situation where they need less guns, they need less jails, and the whole parasitic loss of that system is not a drag on their economies, and then they become more productive and efficient than we are, which it would be so cool.
Because we can afford the parasites.
That's right.
They can't.
That's right.
I mean, they reach a point where they literally can't afford having predatory governments on their backs anymore.
That's right.
Or their cronies.
Yeah.
It's almost like and thank you guys, by the way, for sticking with us as we cure our boredom on the way to Burning Man.
Yeah.
But you know, these issues are incredibly fascinating, not only for their potential to uplift humanity,
Yeah.
but to not only changes the functional aspects of the way we interrelate with each other as a species,
Right.
but it also is going to change our culture.
Totally.
It's gonna, I think, make us better people in a sense.
Totally.
This coevolution of technology and culture is,
Yeah.
I think, woefully underappreciated, but we're
Right.
about to have to appreciate it.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. It is that singularity approaching, the confluence of events that one suddenly becomes the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to
Think
stop.
of
right?
the new models that poor people can. Let's imagine that we have a worker, build a little factory in the developing world, and
Right.
we're all poor, but we can have a worker co-op.
Right. Right.
I mean, Marx is spinning in his grave. I mean, this
Right.
is the worker-owned means of
Right.
production,
Right.
and yet hyper-capitalism.
Right. Right. Totally. Yeah. The best of all worlds.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Interesting. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Could happen.
Yeah, totally. It seems somewhat inevitable. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of these structures that were hypothetical, and unfortunately in the practical implementation is where they completely fall apart and become menaces to society.
Yeah.
Because of these technologies, they could actually be realized in kind of their highest, best forms. So
Yeah.
it's super exciting. I don't know.
And until then, we try our best
Yep.
not to hate the player, but hate the game.
Yep, yep. And really, I mean, the way to actually win the game is to change the rules, right? That's anybody who's won. Generally, that's how it happens.
Yeah.
And that's what we have the opportunity to do. Super grateful to the people who have developed this technology, Satoshi, Eric, Anthony, all these guys,
Yeah.
and girls who are pushing the boundaries and giving us, the best thinking and the best tactical
Tony
tools.
Casserly out in San Francisco.
Right.
Speaking of women in
Yep.
crypto,
Oh, yeah.
she's doing sounds like amazing things with, for example, property rights in the blockchain,
Totally.
marriages,
Yeah.
stuff that
Yeah.
you need to be able to access. You need to be able to circumvent authorities to have it.
Right, totally. Very exciting. So yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty pumped to get out there and just be part of Camp Decentral and meet some amazing people and have some amazing conversations and come away with some tactical applications that we can leverage.
And thanks for letting me hang
Blow
out
this
with
up.
your audience.
Yeah, pleasure. Yeah, good to see you, and thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully the connection worked. Take care.